Hi, everyone. I wanted to record a very quick video of our webinar for today, just in case you wanted to return back to it or you wanted to share it with any colleagues. I'm going to make it super short and just review kind of what we went over today. So it was lovely to see all of you virtually, and so many familiar faces and names came up in the chat. So thank you. I hope you're all doing well. Um, we wanted to really, with this shift to remote learning, we wanted to make sure that we're staying in touch with teachers, because all of the resources that we do are in direct response to the feedback and the conversations that we have with our teachers. So the remote learning, the shift from the physical classroom to the virtual classroom, we really wanted to incorporate a lot of the teacher needs within these unit plans. So hopefully that's reflected in the resources that are being created now. So today we went through a welcome. We talked about goals for today's webinar. We spoke very briefly about the remote learning framework that New Visions has created and ELA has adopted. We went specifically over reviewing over the first remote learning plan that ELA has distributed, which is the me, myself, and the personal statement learning plan. So I'll speak more to that in a second. Talked about digital ideas, doing some shout outs. We took some questions, and then briefly spoke about what is coming up next. So today's webinar was really rooted in the question of what are some best practices and resources to adapt as we shift to remote learning for ELA. So we quickly took a poll, really wanting to know how you are teaching. Are you teaching synchronously, asynchronously, with a more blended model, or perhaps you're still trying to figure out what the difference is between these models because the virtual classroom is such a new space for so many of us. And Elizabeth was able to drop in this quick poll of 32 responses, and we realized that we are all teaching differently, and that's what we kind of assumed. So this is really to say we wanted to take this poll because we are now creating resources that can be adapted to any of the models of digital learning, whether that be synchronous instruction, right? So instruction that's happening in real time, or asynchronous instruction, which is more student led, where students are learning at their own pace, or perhaps schools and you are doing more of a blended model. So the resources, specifically the unit plan that we reviewed today, that can be done in any of these models of teaching. The framework for ELA, which can be seen here and accessed through the link, was really we wanted to emphasize it just because it provides a quick context and rationale for how we're writing the units for remote learning at New Visions. But most importantly, really wanting to showcase that this framework is, because we're writing through this framework, it does provide flexibility for differences in models of remote instruction. We quickly talked about tips for remote learning, right? Establishing a virtual platform, identifying norms for virtual learning, which a lot of teachers have already done. Creating blended learning experience is important. So really understanding, and this is more or less to say, it is important to really understand your students, which we know our teachers do, and keeping that just in the back of our minds, because we know that learners learn differently. Actively building a supportive environment for all learners, so embedding SEL into unit plans, and that is already done in the unit plan that we reviewed today, but making sure that students are supported emotionally with this shift of to the virtual classroom and with everything that is happening in our world today. And then we quickly just, mention explicitly teaching procedures and expectations that can help manage that transition to a more remote learning space. So we went into the me, myself, and the personal statements. So if you just look over here really quickly, the framework on these unit plans could be identified at top. The assessment, the learning targets, the text list. So there are texts embedded into this unit plan, which is not like the curriculum, the main curriculum, which really asks teachers to embed their own texts. And then there's additional resources down here For this specific unit plan, there are two links right here at the bottom if you did want to find different texts than the texts that are mentioned in the unit plan, in addition to a small little calendar down here from day 1 to day 10 with links for student handouts, which would be the asynchronous model, and then a learning plan, which would be more of the synchronous learning. So teachers have the ability to click into either of those if they want a student handout for asynchronous learning. Maybe they want to do both, right? They want the handout in addition to the learning plan, which is scripted that they can post into Google Classroom. Both of those are embedded into these unit plans, so you can make the choice for whatever is best for your community. So one thing we also just we touched base on was adapting for classes needs. So there were questions about, well, how do I adapt this? Well, you could swap text in and out, like I just mentioned with the text list. You can extend the writing into a writer's workshop if you wanted to do more editing or peer feedback, or if you wanted to give feedback to students through Classroom. However you do writing, this can be embedded and it could be extended into a writer's workshop. And then you could also change the assessment. And there is no rubric because we know that schools probably are transitioning their grading scale slightly differently, finagling it a little bit. So we left that out. But if you did want to switch the personal statement, which is more of an upper house assessment, you can shift that to more memory writing or coming of age text, which is in the 9th grade curriculum. Feel free to do that as well. We ended up just quickly shouting out some resources and digital ideas that you could click on that are embedded in the PowerPoint that I'll email you as well. And then we just had some questions about Google, and we really kind of just transitioned at the end to talk about how more webinars will be coming. We'll be starting ELA office hours this week on Thursday. So if you have questions, you could pop in, you could speak to me, and Elizabeth will also be available during that time. And we're here to support. Looking forward to working with you more. If you have questions, please feel free to email me, to reach out, and hopefully, the resources that New Visions is creating will help you in this journey on remote learning for you and your students. So I wish you all the best, and I look forward to continuing our learning together, and hope to see you at the next webinar. Thank you so much.